Hello and welcome to the Autistic Thinking Anonymous Guy podcast. This is episode 2, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about having a friend with benefits and obtaining that and the issues around obtaining that and all that sort of thing. And it basically follows on from the sort of things I was talking about in episode 1. But a few things before we get started that I want to go into. I want to explain rather. In my last, I upload these podcasts onto Spreaker and then from Spreaker upload them onto YouTube. And I wasn't aware that Spreaker only seems to allow you to do 15-minute videos onto YouTube. Hence, when I uploaded the last episode 1, it came up in 3 separate videos, and unfortunately, because I was speaking for just over half an hour, the last video was just kind of me rounding up for the last 2 minutes or so. So it's not great timing, it's not very well calibrated, but it is what it is. I've put episode 1 into a playlist, and I'll do the same with episode 2 as well, as I suspect I'll be speaking for longer than 15 minutes. And I'll do that in future episodes. I will make sure they'll go into separate playlists so you can listen to them, all the videos in order, and each one will play after the other automatically. This time around, I've made some more notes. I've made some notes which I'm kind of using as a guide. Hopefully, it won't sound like I'm reading from a script, because I want this to come from the heart, as it were. But I have made some notes. I'm not feeling quite as energized as I did on the previous podcast. I'm feeling slightly tired. I did have a fairly late night the other night, so I'll probably have a bit of a nap some point later today. But there we go. Before I get into the main topic, I'm going to talk about the whole issue of asking questions. And because I regard myself as a problem solver. That is what I like to do. And actually, sometimes I think what I really enjoy more than anything else, more than going out, more than socializing, more than do my hobbies and all that, is having a walk round the park and just try talking to myself about a problem, about a dilemma, about a catch-22 situation I feel I'm in, and trying to work around that problem. That's what I seem to be able to do for hours on end, and it seems like I do a lot more thinking than actually doing or action taking to solve the problem. But I regard myself as a problem solver, and I love doing that. I love having conversations and analyzing the problem and trying to work out solutions. How do you get out of a catch-22 situation, all that sort of thing. And as a result of that, I will sometimes ask very, very honest, direct questions. And sometimes those questions are not that well received. People think I'm a little bit mad. They think I'm maybe stupid or a bit ridiculous to even ask those questions. But I'm not. I think the fact that you ask questions that are such as the question that I asked and I had read out on a podcast earlier this week. I think the thing is that when you are a problem solver, you have to ask those really direct, those really pertinent questions. You have to almost think about the ridiculous. Your mind can go to allow your mind to explore extreme ideas, things that are clearly not going to work, because then you can see what the answers are, and you think, well, this may not work, but maybe this would. You can then start to, if you almost ask questions that direct you to the extremes, you can then take what someone suggests or take what you think about after those questions, and then modify those ideas to something that may work. So that's all part of being a problem solver. Now, I had a situation that occurred to me about 20 years ago, and a situation that occurred this week. So 20 years ago, I was constantly on the phone to the Samaritans and various other helplines, not because I was suicidal, but because I was not happy with my life. I wanted friends, I wanted a social life, I wanted to be able to go out there and meet women, but I didn't have the means to do it. I didn't have other people, other guys, or other friends I could go out with and and would help me and get into places where I could meet women and potentially find a girlfriend. And all I really knew at the time was my parents' friends and people at work and that sort of thing. And I wanted to change that. I wanted friends that I could hang out with. I wanted mates. But where do you get those friends from? So I felt I had a problem that I wanted to be solved, and I felt depressed because I couldn't find a way to solve that problem. So I felt the Samaritans because I had it because I had to offload. And unfortunately, I mean, some Samaritans were more helpful than others because it depends on sort of whether they were younger or older or what their life experience was. A lot of them didn't really know how to help me because they just were not with the older people who were not in touch with youth culture at all. But anyway, I was phoning up this other helpline, which was not the Samaritans, and I was asking some pretty ridiculous questions because I basically wanted intimacy with a woman, and I'm thinking, how do I obtain that? And I was saying, well, if I did this, and I can't remember exactly what I suggested, but I might have been suggesting something like doing a little survey, and maybe going up to some women and touching them up in certain ways, and then saying, how does that feel, and all that sort of thing, something along those lines. And hence, this is why this is an anonymous cold card, because I do not want my name going out and all my friends hearing that I'm talking about this stuff. But I want to talk about it nevertheless. But this guy, he was a little bit kind of on the helpline. He kind of he would sort of almost jump the gun a bit in the conversation. He didn't really understand the problems I had. But he basically he was quite reactionary and quite provocative. And when I suggested that idea, his immediate question was, "Do you like hospitals?" And I couldn't really hear what he was saying on the phone. It wasn't that clear. But this is really funny. At the time, I wasn't connecting the links. So he was suggesting, if you do that, you might go to hospital. They might slap you in, and you might have to go to hospital if you did that. But I wasn't connecting all the dots, so I can't remember what I said to that. I was probably just asking, what do you mean? Why are you asking about hospitals? I might have said something like that. It's really funny looking back on it. But at the end of the day, at the end of the call, he said, "Look, right, I think you've got some serious mental health issues. You need to see a psychotherapist or something. You've got some serious issues." And I didn't have any mental health issues. I was asking honest questions. My problem was that I wanted to be able to approach women, but I didn't have in bars and clubs, but I didn't have any friends to go with, at least not on a regular basis. So how do I go about doing that? And I was having to ask very direct questions, trying to get to the bottom of it. And when you ask direct questions, you try to get to the bottom of the situation. Some people think you're mad. Some people might think you've got mental health problems, all because you are a problem solver. And in order to solve the problems, you've got to start by asking those very direct questions. Now, fast forward to last week, and I posted a question to Troy Francis in one of his live streams, the dating coach. And I asked the question, is there any other way, apart from seeing an escort, and this is the question I'm going to discuss in this video, not video, but in this podcast, I basically asked that, apart from seeing an escort, is there any other way that I can obtain something sexual from a woman without flirting, building attraction, and all that sort of thing? And he didn't know who I was. He thought I was a boss, actually, but I don't really care because he doesn't know me. He doesn't know my identity. But he wasn't really impressed by the question. He just kind of said, well, this is just a bit ridiculous. That was his answer. He said, why would you want to? Well, the answer why I want to is because I want the physical sensation of being sexual with a woman, but I'm struggling to build the attraction. That's the reason why I want it. But he was just there were him and his other, associate. They were basically saying, "Well, look, it's really fun building attraction and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it is fun, but actually, if you're struggling to do it, it's not that much fun." And Troy just thought, "This is just ridiculous." This question is because there's nothing to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if they look at you and they think you're the hottest thing on the planet, yeah, you might. But I mean, other than that, basically no. So he just thought I was a bit mad for asking that question. But this is the thing. I may well do a whole podcast on asking questions and this my own experience of this, elaborate on this. But the point is that I mean, in all fairness, I only have 200 syllables I can use. I cannot elaborate when I'm posting a question on a live stream as I would be able to elaborate in my own podcast. But the point is, I get annoyed when people think your question's ridiculous because the reason why I might be asking a very direct question that might seem very out there and taking it to extremes is because I'm trying to find a solution, because I'm a problem solver. I'm trying to find a solution to my problems. And the starting point is having to ask those direct questions, asking the why questions and seeing what thoughts and answers you get, and then maybe then modifying that to find something that might work for you. But anyway, I digress. So the question I am asking in this podcast is if, as a man, not a woman, as a man, you are unable to find a girlfriend, you're trying, but no one's showing any interest, or you're not able to get through the hoops necessary to get a woman to become your girlfriend. Is there any other means available by which you can have a sex life and become sexually active besides hiring an escort? That is my question. How can a man obtain a sex life if he cannot find a girlfriend and without hiring an escort? Simple question. Now, obviously, there are people out there who will have friends with benefit type situations. And I am starting to think that this, because the bottom line is I want to, although I've been saying for a long time, I want a girlfriend, and I still do want to have a proper relationship, and I would be willing to commit to all aspects of that. That primarily, I want to be able to have a sex life of some description, whether that would be through being in a steady monogamous relationship with a girlfriend and potentially marriage, or whether that would be with one or maybe several friends with benefits, women who are willing to meet up with me on occasion to do something of a sexual nature with me, maybe for an hour or so on a Saturday afternoon, that sort of thing. And my thinking is that the latter, the friend with benefits, might be easier to obtain than a girlfriend. And there's two reasons why I'm thinking this. You see, the problem I've been on a few dates in the last few dates last year, in fact, which has been better than any other year. But what happens is we go out, the women, I mean, I get the dates through. I mean, it's very random. There's no reliable source of leads, as it were. But I mean, I'm on a few apps. I'm on a few Facebook groups. Occasionally, someone else comes up that I like or matches with me, and we get a conversation going online, and she seems keen, and I suggest meeting up, and then we do meet up, and then and we have a coffee or a drink or something, and we have a chat, and then at the end of it, the dates all go reasonably well, nothing special, but reasonably well. And I think in this year, the dates I've had, the women I've seen, they quite liked me on some level at least. They've been into me. But at the end of the day, they either just go a bit cold, a bit flaky. They just lose interest after the date. It's just not what I offer is just not enough. And I think in many cases they're probably dating multiple men, and because women, if these dating apps and all that are much easier for women, they're getting far more attention. Dating multiple guys